think both are appropriate in different ways. Funnels are really easy to wrap your head around because you have a very clear start and you have a really clear end, and you don't have to care about either sides. If you just want to focus on optimizing like some small piece of the overall picture, funnels are great. We look at getting people to the point of activation, and you can break that down into an individual funnel that is still part of a larger flywheel. But flywheels at the end of the day are where everything needs to head. So without seeing that in the broader picture or knowing that you're working towards that, you're just never done. A flywheel is, in my mind, a bunch of funnels all put together, right? So you're trying to get users from evaluating your product into being beginners, and then into regulars, and eventually into champions. And you can break each one of those stages down into the individual steps that need to happen. But if you make it to the end, then you're back at the beginning again. So it's all a flywheel, and it's all funnels too.
A flywheel is the organic growth engine. It's always like a new sign up generates another new sign up, which generates another new sign up. At Typeform, we called that the K factor, and we knew that every sign up brought another 0.5 signups. So it's just a never ending growth engine. It's kind of like when you have over 100% net retention, your existing customer base alone is a business that's always going to grow, and that's kind of what you want.
The funnel really goes to the point of, we drive all of these people down to this particular point and then we let go of them. If that was the case, I wouldn't have a job, since I really pick up where somebody has already converted as a paid customer on how do we engage and retain them. It is a flywheel because you are building out that new top of funnel, but then you're engaging people and you're moving them to advocacy to drive more top of funnel.
So one of the things or most common problems a lot of companies have is, how do I turn my users into happy paying customers? And we all want, let's say, this perfect business that runs on its own and starts just converting all these users into paying customers. But a lot of people just don't know, what's the first step? How do we really approach this? And so one of the things, after working with SaaS companies for the last 5 years and really just trying to, by doing so many things wrong, finally figured out there's a specific pattern that we could all use to help our users become successful, so that it's a no-brainer for them to become paying customers. And so I call it the bowling alley framework. And so if you're familiar with bowling, essentially what you're trying to do is you roll that ball down the straight line part of the bowling alley, and you're trying to knock down as many pins as possible and hopefully strike out. And so in your product, when you think about that first experience in the product, how can we get people to strike out? And that's the goal here. We want to find, what is that straight line from point A, that's from signing up to actually going to the product and seeing value? What are the things that someone actually has to do in that product to get to that point where they say, damn, that's a strike. I want to go back to this product? Because according to Intercom, 40 to 60% of users will sign up once and never come back. And it's a plague in SaaS. Most people don't even recognize it or have that stat because they're not measuring it. And so if you build that straight line onboarding experience, you can really fast track people to seeing value in your product. But much like bowling, not sure if you know this, but bowling actually had a really big issue. They noticed that a lot of the people who were playing bowling were just the very experienced people playing bowling. And so they saw there was not a lot of new folks playing bowling, and they kind of were scratching their heads thinking to themselves, how are we going to solve this problem? And so they started asking themselves some pretty big questions, like, how are we going to scale this business? How are we going to retain people? And so they came up with the idea of bumpers. And so if you think about it, if you're a kid and you're versing your parents, there's a pretty slim chance you're going to win unless you have been practicing a lot. And so what they started to do is put bumpers up on the bowling alleys to really make sure that even a beginner could see success. Now, whenever it comes to your product, how easy is it to get into the gutter? You're going to be trying something new, exploring the product, and it's all going to be new. You don't know what to do. It's your first time, and it's okay to fail. But how can we make sure that it's almost impossible for them to fail and actually make it easy for them to see success? And so what I recommend is really layering on 2 bumpers. The first one's your product bumper. So whether it's using onboarding tooltips, product tours, to really just show people, here's the way of seeing success in the product. And then the other side is the conversational bumper. So what are the signals that people are telling you based on what they are and aren't doing? So for instance, if someone doesn't do the quick win in your product, are you actually sending them an email or a reminder and saying, hey, like you forgot to do this one step. If you do this one step, you'll see all these benefits. So here's the link to do that. And how can we make that super easy for people to do? And so together, the bowling alley framework really just has 3 components. The first one, make that fast track towards someone seeing value. That is your straight line onboarding experience. The second part is the product bumper. How can we really use and guide people through the product so they can get to the right checkpoints in the product so they can eventually see success? And then the last one is the conversational bumper, which is essentially what are people doing and not doing in the product, and how can we bump them back onto that straight line onboarding experience so that they can all strike out.